Thank you. This is a real treat for me as a fellow EO member. I brought my smartphone up because this will be interactive. So how many of you guys are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Foursquare, Pinterest, MySpace? MySpace always gets the laughs, but you heard it here first. Justin Timberlake is going to help MySpace make a little bit of a comeback. A little bit. Before I get started, a couple of notes for you guys. Here on the screen, you can see 3 Twitter handles: mine, my company's, and my book team's. And one of my personal core values is responsiveness. It's really, really important to me. It's one of the principles of social media that I'll talk about in my workshop later. We'll talk about 2 right now. We'll talk about 10 in my workshop later. So anyway, responsiveness is super important to me, and I get thousands of emails and tweets every week, and I respond to each and every one of them. So I'm going to challenge you, if you have a question today, tomorrow, or anytime for the rest of your lives, to tweet me. And if you can take the time to write a question in 140 characters, then I can certainly take the time to write back in 140 characters. If you need a faster response, you can also tweet to our company and our book team. And finally, this presentation, along with dozens of presentations, are on my SlideShare account, slideshare.net/Dave Kerpen. So if you raised your hand when I said Twitter, chances are you are on Twitter, but how many of you guys are super active on Twitter, like you tweet every day? Okay, far fewer. So I'm going to challenge you, if you are on Twitter but you're not active, to take your smartphones out right now and start tweeting this session. And you can use the hashtag that the folks from Alchemy are using, #EOASEA. And as a little incentive, at the end of our time, I will choose one grand prize winner from somebody tweeting randomly, and you'll go home with not one, but both of the hardcover books, valued at over $30. So 3 truths about social media. This is totally actually not my deck. This is my deck for later, which is totally cool. So I'm going to improvise. That was my workshop for later. So I had a deck for you guys. I am going to talk about 2 of the principles of likable social media of the 10. The 2 are listening and storytelling. Now, a lot of folks, when they get active in social media, they want to learn. They want to use social media to grow their business. They think about getting on Twitter, getting on Facebook, getting on LinkedIn, and talking and selling. And that's the absolute opposite of what the successful company does in social media. For years, listening has been 50% of all communication. You got listening, you've got talking. But for years, we were good at the talking part, but we didn't spend a lot of time and energy on the listening part because we couldn't. Maybe you did some focus groups, you did some market surveys, but you couldn't listen at scale until now, until social media. Social media allows each and every one of us to listen at scale to our customers, to our prospects, to our competitors, to vendors, to other folks in the industry, to our employees. And we heard about big data earlier. The amount of data and conversation that you can listen to on a daily basis is absolutely startling. And then once you listen to that data, you can actually start to do something. Then you can start talking. So a whole bunch of you were on Twitter. Fewer of you were active on Twitter. Let me ask you this, without embarrassing anyone in the room. How many of you guys know at least one executive somewhere in the world that doesn't yet fully understand the business value of Twitter? Pretty much the entire room. So this first story is the story I tell to CEOs when I'm training them about the business value of Twitter and the business value of listening in social media. It was about 2 years ago, and I had just taken a flight in from New York to Vegas, where I was staying at the trendiest hotel on the Strip at the time, the Aria. So I'd taken a flight for about 5.5 hours, and I had gotten off, and I had gone to wait online to check in, and I was waiting for a while because it was super popular and crowded, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I was waiting for over 45 minutes to check in at this hotel when all I wanted to do was get some rest. So of course, I did what any social media nerd would do. I tweeted. Waiting online over 45 minutes at the Aria to check in. Not worth it, pound fail. Which for you newbies is social media nerd lingo for you guys suck. Well, the Aria wasn't listening to my tweet. They were too busy dealing with all the crowds, I guess, to listen to their customers. And the Aria didn't respond. But guess what? The Rio down the street was listening to my tweet. And the Rio responded within 60 seconds to my tweet. Now, every time I tell the story to a senior exec, this is the point at which they get super excited. Their mouth starts watering. This is the business value. I got it. What did the Rio say? Come on over. We've got a room with your name on it. Come on over. We'll take better care of you. Well, the Rio didn't tweet that back. Had the Rio tweeted that, I would have thought two things. First, it's sort of creepy that they're following me this closely. And second, why is it jam-packed and happening at the Aria when it's wide open at the Rio? What the Rio tweeted back to me was the following. Sorry you're having a bad experience, Dave. Hope the rest of your time in Vegas goes well. Sorry you're having a bad experience, Dave. Hope the rest of your time in Vegas goes well. Well, guess where I stayed the next time I went to Vegas? The Rio. So they earned a $600 sale on the basis of that tweet. And the story would be good, but it actually gets a lot better because I liked the Rio on Facebook. And several weeks later, I got a Facebook message from a friend who wrote, I'm having a family reunion this New Year's in Vegas. I saw you like the Rio. What do you think about them? And I said, well, it's not the newest hotel on the Strip. Not the nicest hotel on the Strip, to be honest. But I'll tell you one thing, they listen. She booked 20 people to stay at the Rio on the basis of that like and recommendation. So one tweet and one like, the Rio earned over $10,000 in revenue. And there's not a single entrepreneur amongst us that would argue that that message from the Rio was a marketing message. It wasn't a marketing message. All they did was listen and empathize. Listen and demonstrate to me and to the world that they're the sort of company that empathizes and that cares. So my challenge for you is, instead of thinking about talking on Twitter, talking on all these platforms, what can you listen for that's going to be a signal to you that you have a potential customer, that you have a prospect here? If you're a recruiting firm, any recruiting firms here? If you're a recruiting firm, search Twitter for the words, we're hiring. And you'll find dozens of companies every day that are talking about hiring. Maybe they can use you to help them hire. If you're a law firm, listen for the words, need a lawyer. It's really that easy. Of course, when you see somebody tweeting, I need a lawyer, don't be like those CEOs that think that the Rio should have said, come on over. Don't say, well, I'm a lawyer, talk to me. Say, okay, here's a link to a white paper about how to select the best lawyer. Here's a webinar we're doing about how to deal with with corporate law, around whatever the area of law that they're interested in is. So listen and then respond. I use the analogy often of social media as a cocktail party. It's the world's largest cocktail party, and there's not drinking, usually, but sometimes. But still, it's really just like a cocktail party. And where so many people have gone wrong with social media, where so many businesses have gone wrong, is they're trying to sell. They're not trying to have a conversation. Now, if I walked up to you, Eric, at a cocktail party and I said, "Hi, my name is Dave. Great to meet you, and click here for 20% off." You would think I'm a total idiot. So why would any company use social media in that way? Why would any company, begin a relationship in a way that the idiot at the cocktail party does? The people that we like at cocktail parties, the people that are successful at cocktail parties, are the people that listen, are interested, and tell great stories. Those are the people that are successful at cocktail parties, not the people that say, "Check out my watches," right? Or "Have I got a timeshare for you?" Or whatever it is that you're selling. Those are the idiots that don't do well at cocktail parties. And in the same way, the companies that do well in social media are the companies that listen and tell great stories. So listening is one of the 18 principles that I talk about, one of the 10 that we'll talk about later in the workshop. The other is storytelling. For many years, storytelling has been the best way of getting the word out about your company, about your product, about your service. The best way to scale getting the word out, the best way to do marketing. But how could you do effective storytelling 30 years ago? A 30-second television spot, a 30-second radio spot. Maybe for a small business, a 6-color glossy brochure. And businesses spent a lot of time and a lot of money on telling stories, using media like that, using direct mail. And guess what? Sometimes the stories hit, sometimes they're super successful, and sometimes they're not. Well, the beautiful thing about social media is you can tell your story every single day for far less money and time and energy. You can tell the story of how you were founded. You can tell the story of a customer that's overcome some obstacles thanks to you. You can tell the story of a community partnership that you have. You can tell the story of a charity that you are involved with. There are literally dozens of stories that we all have to share. And today, instead of telling those stories through a 30-second spot, you can tell them through social media. And the beautiful thing is, if they don't resonate, tell another story tomorrow. If you tell a story using a 30-second video that you make using your iPhone, or a picture that you take using your iPhone, or a tweet, and nobody shares that, nobody reshares that story, it's totally okay. So here's my story in a minute or less. My wife and I both had a marketing background, and when we wanted to get married, we didn't have the money to afford a traditional New York wedding, but I'm a very public guy. Social media is perfect for me that way. So I wanted to get married in front of everyone I knew. So we thought of an idea to get married at a baseball stadium, and we called up a minor league team and we pitched it to them, and they said yes, and we ended up having a sponsored wedding at the end of a baseball game. And 1-800-Flowers.com sponsored our flowers, and Smirnoff sponsored our alcohol, and David's Bridal sponsored our bridesmaids' gowns. And we raised $100,000 for an awesome wedding, $20,000 for charity. And I got married to the love of my life in front of 500 friends and family and 5,000 strangers. And the event was great, but it was a really great marketing success as well. We ended up having about $20 million in earned media, CBS, ABC, New York Times, CNBC, and thousands of blogs, which were at the time social media. Oh, wow, they found it. Okay, awesome. So after the wedding, our vendor said, "This was great. What are you guys doing next?" And we couldn't get married again, so we started a company instead. I've told that story to people, in gigs like this, and to thousands and thousands of people through social media. And we've grown our business from 0 to 6 million in 4 years from listening and telling stories in social media. We never had a sales team at all. So I'm here to tell you that storytelling and listening really do work. Social media really does work. Those are the 2 of the 10 principles that we'll talk about later. I also wanted to share with you the 4 most important words in social media. And they're also the 4 most important words in business, so I've learned. And I believe the 4 most important words in life. And they're super, super simple. We all know them. The words are, I'm sorry, and thank you. Wow, that's awesome how you guys caught up with that. I don't even need to use the clicker. This is great. I'm sorry, and thank you. Any lawyers in the group? Okay, awesome. Only one. We've worked with a lot of large brands, and for some reason, I guess the bigger the company, the bigger aversion corporate lawyers seem to have to the words, I'm sorry. They don't want to admit liability, fault, whatever. But I have to tell you guys, when the Rio apologized to me for something they didn't even do, it was amazing. And when companies say sorry, it makes us feel better. It makes us feel okay. The thing is, no one's perfect. We all know that we all make mistakes. Your company isn't perfect. But when you can say, I'm sorry to people, if they have an issue with you, we get a lot of folks that want to delete comments on Facebook, they want to delete comments on blogs. But if you delete something, that's telling them they don't matter. And that's gonna encourage them to go talk even louder somewhere else. Anyone seen the United Breaks Guitars video? Only a couple of you. So United broke this guy's guitar in a flight. He asked them to apologize. They refused to apologize. They said it's not our fault. He made a little YouTube video called United Breaks Guitars. 20 million people have now seen that YouTube video. All they had to do was say, I'm sorry. Now, I said we all make mistakes, and we all do. But even more important and exciting than saying I'm sorry is saying thank you. Because people that have nice things to say, these are your ambassadors of Quan, to quote Jerry Maguire. These are the people that are willing to go out of their way to talk about you. And these are the people that we want to absolutely respond to each and every one of them and say thank you. And say thank you, because thank you does go a long way. So speaking of thank you, I am running out of time. I am going to choose the 3rd person from the top of my tweet stream that is sharing feedback about this presentation. Was this 17 minutes the worst 17 minutes of your life? Did I totally waste your time? Am I a total douchebag? Or did you learn a thing or two? And I'm going to choose the 3rd person no matter what you say, using hashtag EOASEA. 1, 2. Ryan Buchanan. Where's Ryan Buchanan? Give it up for Ryan Buchanan, our grand prize winner. Thank you guys so much for having me. Hopefully I'll see you guys at the workshop, and certainly I will tweet you later.